The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all at the same time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line! That's fair. Good morning! Good morning, Mr. Natsume. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove he didn't stab Miss Green in the back. But now this! Another morning! Another murder! And here I am again in this hellhole! Can't keep coming to court! I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh! Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yes, morning. So, here we are again. Yes, again. What do you have to tell us? Judicial System, Miss Bukatomo and Squires, what's the bad news? Oh dear, you heard, didn't you? If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you say! Oh, I'm sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Mr. Sato. Now, what is it? Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial will be led by Lord Barrack Van Zieks. Yes! Van Zieks? Gah! Oh no! Oh no no! The so-called Reaper of the Bailey, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth, we managed to pull through, but still. Perhaps Mr. Natsume's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter, after all. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zieks is the prosecutor. Oh no! That even if that person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end one way or the other. And we've experienced it firsthand. A man we successfully defended him at the most terrifying end after his acquittal, right here in the Old Bailey. Do I have to put up with these ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by the evil spirits and held by the Reaper! Prepare! A petrifying peril, potentially! Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume. Look of suitor Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire! Yes? I'm innocent! You have to believe me! You, more than anyone now. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. This is weird because this is happening like mid-quilly with respect to like the first game. This is literally happening between two different trials in the first game. So we haven't earned Van Zieks' respect yet, so he's still probably going to be racist towards us. But we'll get there when we get there. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Let's go. Oh, yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean. Oh, no. Whatever will we do without Mr. Sholmes? That's probably for the best. Oh. If he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as weakness. If Lord Van Zieks were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling. Mr. Naruhodo. You're right. Yes, you're so right. Oh Oh, well said, locum tune, Mr. Naho, Esquire, well said! I swear on this sword at my side, and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbors. I'll show him what the Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free with honor. Oh, yes! In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my learned Nipponese friend. Not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. It's not just my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zeeks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason. It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years, he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yet now, he's back in the courtroom, but for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? I want you to remember that word, random, because that is a bold-faced lie. I saw who it was. Absolutely, I had a feeling this Allure kid wasn't innocent before. Okay, like, dude, seriously, you were actually in the trial 2 days ago. Like, how many people live in England? There seem to only be, like, maybe 15 tops. I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right. Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is fetching, actually. Okay, she's new. I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick. Sucks to suck. You're on jury duty. I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight, or the missus will go through the roof. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here, and lead his flock to a righteous verdict. The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public. 6 very specific members of the public. And that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt. 6 citizens of London chosen at random, or at least that's the idea. The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Okay, you know what? That's semi-fair. Very well, let us commence the trial. Lord Van Zeeks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetuate a most blood-curdling crime. Namely, that of the attempted murder of this neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls his first witness to the stand. Oh, witness says. Oh, he's not wasting any time. He's taking the cloak right off. The detective responsible for investigating the scene, and the accused himself. Did he just do that? Witnesses, your names and occupations, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, or Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. Ah, Soseki Natsume from the Empire, Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture. Mr. Natsume. Yes, my lord, sir. I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken that you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. Hey, it's not like he wants to be here. I remember it as if it were yesterday. Well, it almost was. The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough. Ugh. Believe me, this is the last place I want to be. And this is the last time that I will give redundant commentary, hopefully. No, I did not mean to hit that button. Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court. Right, you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Gerardip household where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamsphere, the defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamsphere collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by strychnine. He was found the following morning when the landlord, suspecting something was wrong, broke down the door. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident? Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shamsphere, lives to tell tale. He very nearly didn't. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord. And I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how it looked. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. That's right, everyone present believed that's exactly what he was. Very well, I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Crime scene photograph has been entered into the court record. A photographic print of the scene taken by police upon their arrival. The victim can be seen unconscious at the table having been poisoned. Now then, Mr. Natsume. Yes? As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture? They're haunted. Haunted by evil spirits. Good gracious! What's haunted? My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings! The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me! What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times! Killed, Mr. Natsume? How? Even on the fateful night it happened. When I returned from Mr. Shamsphere's room, I lit my gas stove and climbed to bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me! You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume. But it's so cold! My runny nose would freeze! The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed? Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more. Conclusive point. Conclusive? Go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamsphere, has regained consciousness after his ordeal. And he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief! Order! Order! Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Soseki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him? Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation? That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shansfield's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never! The public pump was frozen, you say? That's not information we've heard before. That will do. Thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine the witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection? None whatsoever, my lord. Good. Then you will give your account of events on the night in question to the court now. Yes, my lord! Let's do it. The catastrophic night. It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice, hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. Ah! My tea was completely harmless! He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he? Stretching takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward. Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one other crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless, presumably though. The teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they? Why didn't I think of that? Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect's substance? How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done? My Lord Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked. Unable? Why? It's simple enough. There was none left, not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough. The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question. I see. Thank you. The matter is clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. What? You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Not really. Some of them just have blank stares. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity. He's right. I can feel all 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. But I can't let them beat me down. I won't. Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Okay, for now I'm just going to press the statements and see what I can get.
Hold it!
Were you and your neighbor good friends then? Ah, no! We weren't friends! Not at all! Not at all! Never! Ever! A simple no would have sufficed. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit? Mr. Shamsphere fancies himself as having great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of the English literature, we find much to talk about together. Come now, no Nipponese could understand the finer points of English literature. Okay, that's just racist, okay? And on the night in question, that was the topic of conversation as well, I presume. It was the day of my last trial when I was acquitted. I just arrived back at my lodgings when I ran into Mr. Shamsphere outside on the street. That was at around 6 o'clock. We exchanged one or two pleasantries, but it soon turned to a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though. So I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have ill intentions? No! Not one, not two, not any. Not at all. Never, ever. A simple no would have sufficed, I feel. Then tell the court what did happen when you visited the victim's room. Okay.
Hold it!
A literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you? Shakespeare? Ah, a very worthy topic of conversation, I must say. Oh yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet! Who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley. Romeo and Juliet? Who was stronger? I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go? Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with the reenactment. So we battled it out, in a Greco-Roman style, naturally. What? Mr. Shamsphere had all sorts of costumes in his room for such a contest. So when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume? He is Romeo and I is Juliet. And after a vigorous wild tussle, I, Juliet, came out on top. A victory I'll cherish forever! I dare not imagine the terrible scene of the carnage. The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim, correct? I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. I'd heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see. It's true, there was no sign of any tea leaves in the man's room. I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. So why is everyone looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless! Of course it was! And do you have any basis for that statement, witness? Ah, my tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Hold it!
Yes. There was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there? That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. He must have licked it dry. Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison. And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume. Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it. The landlord was able to verify that, as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how is the landlord able to attest to this? He, said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector? When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in other parts of the house flicker. Yes, Mr. Garrett seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants. There's only one key to Mr. Shamsphere's room. I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself, from inside the room. The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes. So I'm right! My tea was harmless! Completely harmless! If you take poison, you die! Everyone knows that! It's not that simple, I'm afraid. What do you mean? To actually take some time to have an effect on the body, people don't keel over immediately after taking it.
Hold it!
How long does it take for the symptoms to appear then? According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping, stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seem to be a lot of different types of poison in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear, death by poisoning again. It's always so awful. 30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. You can't deny that. And it further degrades Soseki-san's alibi. I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well. The court will add this report to the court record as evidence. Aha! Report issued by Scotland Yard's medical officers obviously mentions the poison as well as other details gleaned during the police investigation. Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms. Great! The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. Argument still stands. I'm gonna press this, but I think this is the one that we're gonna need to contradict in a second. Let's see. Argument still stands, you say. This is what Mr. Natsume has been saying, isn't it? The pair of them drank tea together that night, so if there was poison in it, the victim wouldn't have been able to lock the door after the accused left later on. Exactly! Ah, me and my tea are innocent! Sweet and innocent, I tell you! I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You see, God bless, I hate that word. Strychnine is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. And as long as you did that, Mr. Chancellor could have locked the door after he'd gone. But no! We drank the tea straight away! The battle over whether Romeo and Juliet was stronger, that came after the tea. Do you have any evidence to support that statement? In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying. Drink tea while it's hot! Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution. I'm afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt on the matter. No. Alright, I want to take a look at the victim's medical report. Ingestion of a small quantity of strychnine. Toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion. High likelihood of substance having been mixed with the tea victim is drinking, but no sample can be obtained for testing. Poison incident occurred at 1:30 a.m. on 21st February, assessed from the victim's pocket watch that appears to have broken when the main collapse had delayed onset symptoms. Poisoning incident occurred at 1:30, no contaminated poison found at the scene. That's weird. Hold on, let's see if I'm right.
Objection!
There we go! Mr. Natsume, you say it was 11 p.m. when you left to return to your room, correct? Yes! And Inspector Gregson, we can rely on the information in this medical report unconditionally? Of course we can. There's no problem with that report, Sunshine. Actually, I think there's a very big problem. Because there's a chronological inconsistency between it and the defendant's testimony. What? What are you on about? According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11. Ah! Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? Ah! The defense's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zeeks? Oh, here we go, my guy. Pray forget the discourtesy if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hollow chalice this luncheon. What? How could it have happened, you ask? I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend appears to be chasing a phantom idea. A phantom? Is it so hard to imagine that the victim drank his tea after the accused had left? For example, at the time stated in the medical report? Yes, at around 1:30. Who drinks tea at 1 in the morning, my guy?
Objection!
Mr. Natsume brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor. And in Japan, there is a well-known saying, drink tea while it's hot.
Objection!
And in my country, there's an even more apt saying, there is nothing more refreshing than cold tea. The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned. Other possibilities. What sort of possibilities, counsel? Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor. Another visitor? That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend. From someone who has nothing to substantiate it. Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition. Why would he do that? You suggest this may have been a suicide, counsel?
Objection!
Mr. Shamesphere has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted.
Objection!
But he could be lying. He's not taking that argument well. Is something wrong, Lord Van Zeeks? I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray forgive the discourtesy. Carriage? What carriage? It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived. Out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. Oh, God. A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Who, sir, are you? William Shamsphere, my lord. Alas, 'twas I, undone by these bitter events. I am the victim. What? What's he doing here? The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed. You're calling him as a witness? Very well, counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself. Happy am I, Shamsphere, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. But I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of worse woe. I can regale the court with the tale of my perfect innocence in perfect English. That will do, Mr. Natsume. Let the court now hear from the victim. Who the heck is this guy? Alright, so that's Mr. Shamsphere. But who's that other man beside him? Yes, I feel sure that we've caught a glimpse of that man before. State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses. A writer of words so sweet they do scent the breeze. An inventor ideas so propound they compose the earth. The unrivaled poet, the unmatched scribe William Shakespeare. Were the great bard to be recalled to life anew, lo, what a magnificent man. Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle, William Shakespeare. Oh, the name's Meterman. Adrian B. Meterman. I have a feeling you work on the gas meters. Just guessing. I work for... Yep! I work for the Altamont Gas Company, East End branch office. Sweet Christ. Ah, I remember now. It was only yesterday on Briar Road. Oh yes, she's right. It's him. Oh, what's this? What's that man doing over there? He looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Excuse me, could we have a word? Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garrett's house that morning. And he's a gas company employee. What does he have to do with this case? So, Mr. William Shamsphere, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct? Oh heaven, oh hell! Do you command me to remember? That sweet poison that did cross me and cross mine innocent lips! I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure. Behold! You have only to rearrange the letters of my name to she that the me as seraph, an angel indeed. Thus be I noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be. Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name. No, not at all. The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid. They're actually taking this seraph anagram idea seriously? Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions. But my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shamsphere doing here? The gas man, I mean. What? Me? Well, now... Allow me to enlighten my learned friend. You recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence? When you suggested that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question? And moreover, that the victim is a compulsive liar? What? No, I didn't quite say that. This young chin stroker is here to controvert your wild claims, conclusively. Wait, so you planned on me assuming that the victim was lying? What? Is that not so, Mr. Meterman? Hang on, no, I'm just here... I hereby call for your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as loosely as possible what happened on the night in question. One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken. The truth of that wintry night of my discontent. I'm gonna hate voicing this guy. The wintry night of my discontent. The snow lay about. My neighbor did cometh in the evening, bearing a gift of tea. But merry, bitter was his drink, and when he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips that late hour, naught else. I was outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room but that short little round-backed Eastern fella. How did he do that? Wait, what did you say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Chancellor's room all night? That's right. Of course, the bloke's window's all but blocked up, isn't it? But there's a little gap in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peered in through that. The question is, sir, why? Well now, that's because he's on my list. What a piece of work is a man! Wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment? What are you talking about? This buzzing busybody hath not part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed, make no more ado about his tedious words. What do you say about me? Calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened on the night in question. Nothing more. Indeed, that is so. And that, as the testimony we have just heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time who could have carried out this crime. Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial. Doubt it. Now, counsel, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Okay, this is gonna take a hot minute. Let's do this.
Hold it!
To be clear, by neighbor, you are referring to the defendant, Mr. Natsume. Oh, indeed, sir. Perchance thou wouldst I call him the man from upstairs? And at what time did the mustachioed Nipponese visit you in your room? Our meeting was promised for the hour of 9, and lo did he come to tender a gift of fragrant tea. Details which are in accordance with the defendant's own testimony, yes. And we were broiled in such a literary debate as history hath not seen before. By which I presume he means their discussion about who was the stronger, Romeo or Juliet. I, Shamsphere, did play the part of young Romeo, whilst my neighbor played the fair Juliet. Each of us dressed as would our characters be, to bring weight upon our merry experiment. I dare not imagine the scene. Frailty, thy name is woman. Canst thou imagine how dismayed I was? Yes, I had heard of the Eastern art of jujitsu, but ne'er did I dream 'twould be a skill practiced by the commonly maiden. Juliet beat Romeo up? This is not helping our case. I believe the court has heard enough about your earth-shattering literary debate. Perhaps you could reiterate your statement about the tea that the accused brought to your room? My liege, I am thy servant. Gladly I would do thy bidding. Alright, let's press statement number 2.
Hold it!
Let me stop you there. Mr. Natsume left your room at 11 o'clock, but it wasn't until after 2 that the poison made you collapse. That amounts to more than 3 hours of missing time. If the defendant had really put the poison in your tea, that 3-hour window of time is something you're going to have to explain. Gladly, 'tis an easy task. What? I did drink of the tea, not while my guest did tarry, but after he took leave of me. Faith, 'twas stone cold, but at 1 hour post midnight, verily were my lips parched.
Objection!
That doesn't sound normal. Nay, 'tis quite ordinary, sire, after all. Thou wouldst recall our fiery debate. Amidst such argument, there'd be no time for fiery tea. Romeo and Juliet again, and who was stronger? Mr. Shansphere, in summary, allow me to confirm. Did you not come here with the intention of naming your attacker? But of course, my liege. 'Twas the stoop lover of words did attempt to shuffle me out of this mortal coil. We all know what that means. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips that late hour, not else. There has to be a statement that we have to contradict, but I need to work that in somewhere.
Hold it!
So, you didn't have any kind of evening meal? Dinner? Supper? Ha! Fie on luxury! Fie on gluttony! To eat thrice daily is but a waste of time! Sorry? I would that my belly were full, no more oft than the sun doth rise. Well, most heroic eating habits, I must say. Night and day do I fill my hours with the learned study of the great bard and playwright. Hence it is that there doth not much more be than the costumes of mine art. That would appear to be the case, as even a rodent was found starved to death in your room. Now that I think of it, it's not just food that was conspicuously missing from that room, is it? I don't recall seeing a single player script anywhere. For I have devoured them all. You've eaten them? Every word be within my skull. Didst thou imagine otherwise? Right, that wasn't misleading at all. Now, could you turn around, do you think? Which brings us to the conclusion that the only way the poison could have passed the victim's lips is in the tea. I was outside his book's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room.
Hold it!
But the windows of that house have all been filled in. A historical artifact of the now defunct window tax. Yeah, you're right there. All bricked up horribly. But as it happens, there's a little part of the brickwork at the bottom corner that's been opened up. I was looking in through that gap. Yes, there were a few bricks loose, weren't there? For some strange reason, a couple of bars of soap lined up the ledge outside as well. I don't like going around poking my chin in other people's business, especially on freezing cold nights. But them's my orders, that's what I'll keep doing, as long as there's breath in my body. But why? What's with all the theatricals today? Out of interest, Mr. Meterman, after the accused had left and returned to his own lodgings, did you see the victim leave the room at all? No, he never left. He was in that room the whole time as far as I'm concerned. And we can therefore discount the possibility of suicide. How can you be sure of that? The police carried out a thorough investigation of the scene and found no receptacle for the poison. And since we know the victim didn't leave his room and hence didn't dispose the poison's container himself, it's clear that this was no attempted suicide. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle. Ah, yes. Lucidly explained, counsel. Thank you. It really was. You can't argue with the logic. No one else visited his room but that short little round. Okay.
Hold it!
You say a short little round-backed Eastern fella? So you can't be sure it was the defendant then?
Objection!
How many other short little round-backed Nipponese with a mustache do you think there are in London? I'm still guessing more than Mr. Natsume. Well, of course, it's only a narrow gap and it was quite dark, so I didn't notice the mustache. But he showed up at around 9, so I'm pretty sure of myself. And when the person you saw arrived, did he and Mr. Chancellor drink tea together? Nah, sorry, couldn't say. Why not? Because I couldn't see into the room all that well, could I? With what I did see was the silhouette of that little round bat fellow wearing a pretty dress. Oh, sweet Christ. Then the pair of them started some kind of wrestling match. I tell you, I didn't know what to make of it. I suppose that was Romeo and Juliet championship battle going underway. Mr. Meterman, allow me to confirm one final time. Apart from the accused, can you state with certainty that no one else visited the victim on the night in question? No question. Gaspman's honor. My lord! Goodness me! Yes, Mr. Foreman? I kept my mouth shut and listened up to now, but this has gone on long enough. Are you all with me? Yes! Are we to understand that you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are in agreement with one another? That you've reached a unanimous decision? Too right we have. Are you all with me? Yes! Wait, no! The defense is in the middle of a cross-examination! To be honest, I was holding out a bit of hope for you, young man. Especially after you identified those few hours that followed the accused leaving the victim's room. Yes, the 3 missing hours, as you put it. But in the end, what a difference do they make? None as far as I can see. And since that's now apparent, there's really no reason to delay our decision any longer. Like I was saying before, if I don't take 5 bob home with me tonight, the missus will blow her top. What's that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said. Very well, let the court be apprised of your decisions. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty!
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Oh boy, there's such an impactful guilty that it froze my screen. All of you? Well, it would appear that the jury is indeed unanimous. So, this time at least, it seems justice will be done. All's well that ends well, as they say. This calls for a toast, I feel. To the guilty being punished. Ugh. Wah! Get up, Mr. Naruto, please! The trial isn't over yet. What do you mean, Mrs. Zato? What about the information I found in this encyclopedia of British law I have? The obscure right that belongs to defense in these situations. Remember? Yeah, again, some things they have to review with us, so bear with me again, please. A summation examination. Yes, that's right. We don't have a jury in Japanese courts, of course. But here in a British court of law, if we can reverse the decisions of a majority of the jurors, we can force the trial to continue. This trial can't end now. We've messed up the timeline. Whatever it takes, I just can't let that happen. The defense moves to invoke its right to a summation examination, my lord. Why am I not surprised? As my Lord Nipponese friend's inability to admit defeat? You choose to cling desperately to some archaic rule you barely comprehend instead of accepting the truth. Certainly no other defense counsel in recent times has exercised the right to a summation examination. because they all know that once a jury's mind is set, it cannot be altered. Nevertheless, the right remains and must be upheld. What do you mean it can't be altered? We altered it multiple times 2 days ago! God bless this game. The defense counsel's request is granted. This court will proceed with the summation examination as outlined in the Encyclopedia of British Law. Thank you, my lord. Are you and your fellows prepared, Mr. Foreman? Believe me, my lord, we know all about this young lad's tenacity. And we're ready for it. Very well. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby call upon each of you to state the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime for which he stands accused.